Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for joining. For those of you who doesn't know me, my name is Ophir Gutelson, co-founder at Unacceptable. Unacceptable is a grassroots movement for saving Israeli democracy. It's exactly about a year since we started going out on the rallies on San Francisco last time. And obviously we are in a different time now, post-October 7. I'm very, very, very delighted to have Orly Barlev with us today. And I can only assume that everyone knows Orly by now. Orly was in a tour in the US 6 days before October 7, I think, even less than 6 days. In San Francisco, you were 6 days before. So just a quick brief summary, and you will have a link to Orly's page. So Orly Barlev is a highly regarded and influential independent journalist in Israel and activist. She has been actively involved in protecting Israeli democracy since the beginning of the well-known leader in the pro-democracy protest. Her voice is trusted source of truth in Israel, ongoing fight to justice and equality. And Orly, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Ophir, for inviting me, and thank you, everyone. Well, actually, I've been to the States. I got back one day before, on October 6th. I landed in Israel after 3 weeks in the US and meeting some of you. And well, my suitcase was just, stayed in the living room for 3 weeks after that, because we woke up in the morning and the sky fell on our heads, and that's it.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Orly, just a quick one. If you can move the camera a little bit down. Perfect. Awesome. Orly, we are in almost 130 days post-October 7. I wanted to start by obviously mentioning the great success of the release of our 2 hostages 2 days ago, and unfortunately on the same day, and since then we lost another 5 soldiers. And everything is connected. I mean, we are, as my background is saying, we are very focused on bring them home now and demanding a new leadership now. So that would be our focus of the conversation. And just to set up the stage, I'm going to share a video we translated yesterday of 2 of the bereaved family of Liron and Rakefet, the parents of Sergeant First Class Adi Eldor, who fell on the same day the 2 hostages were released. So let me share this for a second. Well, other people are joining still, I can see. So share screen.
The heartbreaking video.
Very heartbreaking video, yes. So yeah, I hope that would work. Share. Can you see my video?
We see it.
Yeah.
המסר שביקשת להעביר.
המסר שביקשתי להעביר זה, אני מקווה שהוא ידהד בכל הרשתות, והאלה שפחות אוהבות להדהד את המסר הזה. זה החטופים. הילדים שלנו נלחמים כי הם חושבים שהמלחמה צודקת. הילדים שלנו נהרגים כי הם חושבים שהמלחמה צודקת. הילדים שלנו נהרגים בשביל החטופים.
טוב בשביל עוד מחבל או עוד אמל"ח. אם לא נחזיר אותנו, אין לנו עתיד.
המשפחות האלה גרות שמה כי המדינה שלחה אותם. החיילים שירתו שם כי אנחנו שלחנו אותם. הם לא הלכו לבלות שמה. גם לשמוח במסיבה מותר במדינת ישראל. אנחנו צריכים להחזיר אותם. אנחנו צריכים להחזיר אותם. שאף חייל, חיילת, חטוף, קורבן של הזוועה הזאת, לא יהיה לשווא. קיבלנו בשורות נהדרות היום על 2 שהצליחו לחלץ. צריך להמשיך בכל הכוח, בכל משא ומתן. לא לפלג, לא להשמיץ מנהיגים בעולם, זה בעוכרינו. צריך לחזק את כל מי שיכול, את כל מי שיכול. אחרי שהם יחזרו, אז נסגור חשבון עם מי שאתם רוצים לסגור חשבון. אחרי שהם יחזרו, לא על הגב שלהם. תינוקות, זקנים, נשים. זה לא הזמן. הזמן זה להחזיר. לעזוב את הטוויטר, לעזוב את הרעל. הם אנשים טובים. הם אנשים שמגיע להם לחזור הביתה. הביתה, זה הבית שלהם. אנחנו לא יכולים להפקיר אותם. הם לא נטל. לא האזרחים ולא החיילים. צריך להזכיר את החיילים שנחטפו. זה שהם לבשו דרגות והיו בשירות הצבאי, לא פחות ולא מוריד מהאחריות שלנו, זה ששמו אותם ברשימה, כמובן מאילוצים, בסוף לא מוריד. כל אחד מהם, כל מי שחי מהם, וכל מי שלא בין החיים מהם, להחזיר, לעשות את כל מה שאפשר, כדי שהמוות של הילדים שלנו לא יהיה לשווא.
Wow.
Yeah. Amazing. Same morning. And
It's yesterday's morning in
yesterday's
Israel.
morning in Israel, again on the same morning that we got the great news about the release of Luis and the 2 hostages.
Yeah, Luis and Fernando.
Luis and Fernando. Yes. Okay. Let's take a breath.
Before we start, Ophir, let me take this opportunity to say that we're going to talk about Netanyahu, about Israel, about the situation, about the political situation, about the protest situation. But before that, we need to say, and also it's written here, bring them home now. The hostages situation, this is #1 priority. We need them back now. Right now, it's in our hearts, and this is the #1 issue that needs to be dealt with. I mean, this is #1, and that was the message of those noble and brave parents. That was their message, to bring them home and to do whatever it takes to bring them home.
Yeah. Okay. So the title of our meeting is How Can Israel Free Itself of Netanyahu and his government? And why is it necessary for Israel to...
I cannot hear you suddenly. I don't hear you. I don't know about others, but...
No, we can't hear you, Ophir, for some reason.
Yeah.
How about now?
Yeah. Good.
Better.
Okay. So let me try and one more.
You are,
Better
but
now?
you're not very loud. It's very...
Is it better now?
Yeah.
I will do the talking, so...
Okay, let's try now.
Yes, you're good.
Perfect. So we are going to start with 5 minutes update about the situation right now in Israel, both in political way, and then we dive into the question. Oli, please go ahead.
Okay, so let's start. I mean, the title of our meeting is How Can Israel Free Itself from Netanyahu? And we need to ask, why do we need to free ourselves from Netanyahu? So I'm going to give you the point of view of me as an independent journalist that covering and following Netanyahu's actions and corruption trial and the way he is governing Israel. So this is my perspective, and also the perspective of me as a citizen, as an activist that fought in the past few years against the corruption in the government, and specifically against Netanyahu, because I saw him as a great danger to Israel. I saw his intention to take down the regime, to take down the democracy in Israel, and to have a new regime coup. I saw it not only in the past year, but I saw it 3 and 4 years ago. So from that perspective, I want to give you my view on the situation right now. So first, we need to understand that Netanyahu is dangerous, and not only in my eyes. We see in many polls, actually in most of the polls that has been held in the past 4 months, that has been done by the mainstream media, a vast majority of the public, they see Netanyahu as responsible for October 7th events, and they seem to be blamed for. And the vast majority, I mean 70%, 80%, they say that he's guilty, and they say that he should resign. He should leave his power. He should go and lead and free the way for a new leadership. So the vast majority of the people in Israel, that's what they're saying in most of the polls in the mainstream media. And what we need to see and to focus on, we need to see, first of all, the responsibility of Netanyahu on the event that went up to October 7th. Not only to mention that Netanyahu enabled the financing of Hamas, and I mean suitcases filled with cash handed over to Hamas with Netanyahu's approval. And this process was continuing for a few years. Not only the false conception of empowering Hamas instead of the moderates and weakening the moderates in the area. And not only that, Netanyahu was the key factor behind the regime coup in Israel. He was the one who is the major advancing. It was the regime coup was on his behalf, actually, and he was the main force behind it, although there was Yariv Levin, the justice minister, and others, but he was the main force behind it, and he wanted it not only to have his own new regime that he will stay in power for many, many years, but also to evade his own trial. Netanyahu is trying to evade his criminal trial, and he's afraid that he will go to jail. The accusation, the trial, the charges are very harsh, and it's possible that he will have jail time. And all that you've seen in the past few years, all the elections, 3, 4, 5 elections, it was all because of Netanyahu's trials, and he's trying to evade, to use the power in order to evade his own trial. So the regime coup and all what happened in the past year until the October 7th was Netanyahu trying to change the game in order that he will stay in power and in order that he will evade his own trial. And what he did is what was weakening Israel, weakening our society, spreading hate Netanyahu has the propaganda machine, the poison machine, what we call it, spreading hate, sowing division. And in that situation, the enemies, our enemies, they seized the opportunity, and then they made in the most horrific way, and they did what they did, but it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen if Israel, the society, was to, to stay connected, to stay strong, and if the regime wasn't about to be to change into a new regime, if the democracy in Israel was stable and strong, and the government and the prime minister wasn't trying to take it down, then it would be a totally different situation and a totally different story. And I don't think that our enemies, I don't think that we were in the same situation that we are right now. And also, what we need also to remember is that through this year, many of the security forces, the IDF chief of staff and others, they went to Netanyahu and they warned him. They warned him that the security situation in Israel is going worse, and that Israel is getting weakened, and that the enemies are looking at us. They are looking at us and they are seeking for the opportunity. There were warnings about what actually happened, not in the specifics, not in the details, but there was a specific warning, not only one, but a few, also in written, also in letters sent to Netanyahu, saying that what is going on, the political situation, the regime coup, whatever they are trying to do to take down the democracy is weakening us, and the enemies, they see it and they are looking for the opportunity to make an action. So this is the background. So, and I'm saying not only this, that Netanyahu is responsible. And by the way, he's not willing to take any responsibility, any accountability. You hear nothing from him about that. But not only that, but also if you see the way that Netanyahu is acting after October 7th, by the way, from the very day of October 7th. It took him hours until there was a cabinet meeting. Hours. It was only late in the noontime. And but also, if you see what he did after, the people that he's putting in charge, the way that he's still talking, sowing division as we speak, hate, and also regarding the hostages release deal, we see that in every junction, in every step of the way, Netanyahu is taking care of his own interest above the national interest. Netanyahu's only concern is himself. And this is the major problem, and this is why Netanyahu is dangerous. He was dangerous. We got the implications of this danger, and there was already one huge disaster, and now he's still very dangerous because he's still putting his own political interest, personal interest, evading his own trial interest, and so on, above the national interest. And we see it in his press conferences, we see it in his resolutions, we see it all the time. And Israel now is in the most complicated war. Many we have in the south, we have it in the north, we don't know what will be east. So everything is very, very fragile, everything is very, very delicate. And right now, actually, we need the best government we could have. But right now, what we have is the worst government possibly can be. The worst government ever been in Israel. It's Netanyahu as his personal interest, and the extremists that are with him in this coalition. They are trying that the resolutions, that the decisions will be their way, and to make these delicate and complicated decisions in this form of coalition, it's unbearable. The situation is unbearable, and I will give you maybe more background about it next.
So we have the background on what's happening, and we are now going to what I want to kind of like go over right now is that there is basically two ways, right, to get into elections. For those of you, let's just go through them. There is one way is basically we need to dissolve the Knesset. The Knesset needs to dissolve itself, and we have like a deadline of end of March for that to happen. That would be one way to come up to an agreement of an election date. And the other way is to get similar to what Chamberlain and Churchill went through, is that the Likud party or the coalition and the opposition will agree on a new prime minister. That is our two options, and we have to say, I think that only one thing that probably to add on what you said before is that the opposition gave any chance beside Gantz and Eisenkot to actually let Netanyahu give up on the extremists and join to a very simple and a very coherent, trustful government, and he chose not to. I mean, and that is important to say. But even now, I mean, we have Gadi Eisenkot and we have Gantz in the government, and the biggest, I think, trick in that Netanyahu is using is this term total victory or absolute victory. And by that, the definition of like making the war going forever.
Endlessly.
Endlessly, yes. What is the, let's dive a little bit deeper into the options, the two options. How do you see them? Are they even reasonable, or there is only the third option, which is a massive protest movement like we saw a year ago, is the option?
Not only a year ago, but also 4.5 weeks ago, months ago. I mean, on the same day, there was supposed to be the 40th demonstration on that October 7th. Yeah. Okay, let's discuss a little bit about the political situation, but it's all connected. And also, I do need to tell you one more thing about Netanyahu and the hostages release deal, but I'm just putting it, for later on. The political situation, well, so I told you that the vast majority of the people, they want Netanyahu to go. Right now, there are also, well, the political situation is not stable, although Netanyahu has his 64 fingers. We need, in Israel, the Knesset is 120 members, Knesset members. So a coalition is formed by 61, and he has 64 coalitions of 64 hands. And he has it with the most extremists. We need to say it. They are the most extremist parties that they weren't even in the Knesset. Netanyahu brought them in. He brought them into the mainstream because of his criminal trial, and because of the moderate parties. They didn't want, I mean, they refused to sit with him and to legitimize someone with criminal charges as a prime minister. So he took the most extremists and he put them inside the Knesset, inside the power positions as ministers. Ben-Gvir, he's the minister above the police, and Smotrich, he's the minister of financing. And you see, and probably you heard about how US is dealing with the extremists in Israel. So it's a very complicated situation. And although the vast majority of the people in Israel agreed that Netanyahu should go, something that he should go after the war and something that he should go right now. And after the war is a very flexible notion. What is after the war? It's like an absolute victory. Netanyahu is playing with these notions. He's playing with the words, again, in order to save his own personal interest. And that's why Ophir said that Netanyahu has a personal interest that the war will go on and on and on, because as the war going on, Gantz and Eisenkot are inside the coalition, making it even bigger and even more stable. In this time, Netanyahu is gaining legitimacy and he's gaining time. Netanyahu is a player on time. Whatever he can do, he's postponing, he's delaying, he's trying to take a situation and make it permanent. So while he's in power, he uses the war to stay in power. So there are a few options, well, a political options. One is called a constructive, a constructive vote that they need to show that they have another government in this Knesset. So the Knesset, they don't need to go to a new elections, but they can form a new government in this Knesset. The political correspondent and analyzers, they are saying that this option is not highly to happen. The chances are not so good. And we see that Netanyahu is holding really tight the Knesset members in his party, and the extremists holding him tight and extorting him politically. And another option is an elections. But what we need to understand is, as long as Gantz and Eisenkot, that are coming from the party, which is a central party, a very moderate central party, Hamachaneh Mamlachti, as long as they are inside the coalition with Netanyahu, then Netanyahu will continue to play this kind of both sides play, that he will try to sound like the one who is managing it normally, but he will do things that will sabotage the process of, for example, the hostage release deal, or he will do all kinds of things to prolong the war. But, and while then, Gantz and Eisenkot are giving him legitimacy and are giving him time, and they normalizing Netanyahu to stay in power, although we just been through the most traumatic event in the history of the state of Israel. And they are normalizing him to stay in power. Now, I'm sure that Gantz and Eisenkot, many people, by the way, in Israel respect very much this party, and specifically Eisenkot, who lost his son in this war, and this is a heartbreaking situation. So many people, we see the good intentions, but there is a lot of damage that it's been done every day that Netanyahu stays in power. And he is in power, and I need to tell you, for example, we take the hostages release deal. We see in our own eyes, and not only we, also White House officials, they see it, they are appalled by his actions. They see how Netanyahu, for example, telling his ministers to speak out against the deal. It's like, with one hand, he's like, yeah, we're doing everything we can in order to release the hostages. This is one hand. And then on the other hand, well, behind the back, he's trying to hardening the positions, to delay the response, to stall time, and also the poison machine, the propaganda machine that is serving Netanyahu's agenda is attacking the hostages' families. And there is a whole campaign against the hostages' families. And this campaign, you can see it on channel 14. It's not a formal one, but you can just see it. It's on channel 14, which is like the propaganda channel that serves Netanyahu, not the right or any agenda, any political agenda, but specifically Netanyahu. This is the result when you see the broadcast. This is the result of what comes out of it. And also in the social media, there is a whole campaign against the families. And I'm saying all this just to show you again that Netanyahu, he's very concentrated on his own personal interest, because the extremist told Ben-Gvir, told Netanyahu that he will break down the coalition if there will be this hostages release deal that he will not like. If the deal will be with a high price, I'm putting a period in my sentence. If the Ben-Gvir said that if the deal will be with high price, he will take down the government. So Netanyahu, he's afraid that he will lose power. So this is the balance between power, staying in power, and the hostages. And this is crazy that I need to even explain you the situation. And of course, that if any of you were in his position, you would choose saving lives, taking out the hostages, not sabotaging the negotiation. But this is the situation. Netanyahu, and also you hear it, you see how the US officials, they are completely in shock by the way Netanyahu is acting.
I believe that by now, at least I assume here, a lot of people are in consensus that Netanyahu is hurting Israel and hurting us all over the place, and the government is possibly will dissolve itself with a lot of pressure. But what are your suggestion for the next steps in order to expedite this situation? I mean, like calling Gantz and Isaac to get out of the government is one. They will still have 64 votes, and as you mentioned, time is what Netanyahu is playing on. And for us in America, we know that there is another reason for the time, which is called Trump, that might be elected. What are your? I mean, if you had like 2 or 3 steps going forward, what would you suggest we can do, or what Israelis can do to expedite this situation?
Okay, so I'm talking about right now about Israelis, because I think the situation for you is a little bit different. You are abroad, and also you are going through all kinds of challenges with the anti-Semitism, and I think it's a different story. But here in Israel, first of all, let's tell you, I want to tell you that there are already, there is a growing protest in Israel. It's not in the huge masses that were like hundreds of thousands of people out in the streets every week. It's a matter of thousands outside on the streets every week, but it's going bigger, it's growing. There are, in Jerusalem, there is a tent, for example, of families of people that were murdered in October 7th, and even one family of hostages. Of course, there is the hostages situation, and of course that there are all kinds of gatherings and sometimes even protests regarding that. But there are also protests calling for one of 2 main messages: taking Netanyahu out of office. This is one message. And other message is election now. Election now. And again, this message is playing on the sentiment I was telling you about, that it's in the polls that vast majority are saying that he should go. So now, right, but I need to tell you, it's very, very complicated in Israel, because although the war changed its phase and it's less tensed, still there are people that are that are fighting there. People, there are hundreds, I mean, between 100, maybe 150,000 people from the north and from the south that they are outside there. They are refugees in their own country. And people are still in shock. People are still traumatized. Some people, their own kids are fighting in Gaza, so it's really hard for them to go outside and to protest. It's hard for people. So it seems like it's not as it was before, you know, just to go outside. It's not that simple for many people. Personally, I'm outside and I'm covering it, and I'm giving a live broadcast from all kinds of protests. Sometimes I'm with the hostages' families. Sometimes I'm with the protests calling for Netanyahu out of office or election now. We need to understand that the situation is very, very different. We have all kinds of groups now. We have the group of, which is a huge group of people that lost their beloved ones on October 7th. There are people that got injured. There are people that they are the survivors of the horrific events. There are people, of course, the hostages' families, people that there are still, you know, refugees. There are so many people that their life turned upside down completely. And I mean, many, many families and people. So the situation is totally different. But I think that we need, first of all, to speak out. I mean, this is what I'm doing. I think that we need to speak out to Gantz and Eisenkot and to tell them again and again, you normalize Netanyahu, you give him time, you give him legitimacy, and he uses you in order to prolong the war, to stay in power, and he's playing with the cards, he's playing with it to stay in power. I believe that when Gantz and Eisenkot are doing, you know, some kind of a muscle act, and, you know, putting down a statement and maybe even going out of the coalition, I think that Netanyahu will run to a hostage release deal. And right now, I think that he's playing with the cards again for his own benefit. So I think that we need to shout it. I mean, here in Israel, I think that anyone who feels that it's time to go out, I mean, you should, and you can choose one of the many, many protests. Of course, I think that every citizen in Israel should go out to support the hostages' families, that's for sure. This is like anyone who can do it, yeah, anyone who is not traumatized or in, you know, in shock. It's different. It's not, you know, it's not like any other protest, the situation. We are in trauma, and it's like we need to deal with the trauma, but still the man who put us in this situation is still up there and running the show. And this is unbearable, the situation, and I believe that it will grow. I believe that the protest will get bigger and bigger, and the fight for new leadership, as it's written here, demanding new leadership, I think that the fight for it will get bigger, and it will change the political situation. I hope soon.
Thank you, Orly. I'm going to start to take some questions from the list we received both online before and here. The war itself is, as you said, is going to it's already in a new phase. However, Netanyahu is not announcing it. On parallel, Netanyahu is looking to blame others. And the question is, by staying, I mean, like, by extending the time of the war, and is Netanyahu trying to win time on the back of the hostages and delaying the hostage deal for that, in your opinion? Or is it something that the people of Israel see and they will try to push him more into getting a deal now? So that's because it sounds like, and I'll paraphrase on that, that even if we get a deal now, which we all hope, I mean, this will take a long phase of stop of the war. And during this time, who is going to manage the war if there will be elections? So there is kind of like two sides to this discussion, right? One, we want a deal now that will extend the time of the government.
Number one priority, the hostages. Number one priority. I mean, number one priority. But, and I can tell you, for example, if you listen to the hostages' families, you hear variety of voices. There are all kinds of voices because there are many families there, 134 now. So there are all kinds of voices. There are voices that are saying I don't want to put a tag on it. I'm just saying there are voices that are saying, go and crush them till the total victory, something like this. There are voices that are not, they don't want to make any political statement, okay? This is like the mainstream. And there are other families, and what they are saying is that we see that Netanyahu is not pushing for the deal, not initiating, not trying to advance it, even trying to delay, to stall, to harden position, and so on. And what they see is, and also, as I explained before, and this is a public knowledge, one of the extremists in the coalition said that if the deal will be with high price, for example, to stop the war for a long time, maybe releasing all kinds of security prisoners with blood on their hands, all kinds of, high prices. He said that he will just, quit the government, and Netanyahu will lose his 64 fingers, 64 hands. So the situation is clear when you look at it. And those families are saying this statement. They are saying to Netanyahu, bring the deal, bring the deal. You are our prime minister, bring the deal, and bring the deal now, because our dear ones, they are there, and they are in great danger, and it's a matter of life or death. So take them out, bring the deal. But if you cannot bring the deal, then step aside and let someone who can bring the deal. So there are all kinds of voices. This is one of the voices that you can hear from the families.
And those are, and by the way, we are trying to get as many voices as we can on our YouTube channel translated, so you can get them, because again, there are many things happening on the Israeli press, and we will touch the Israeli press in a second. That doesn't actually being transferred to the American press, because we're all focusing on the war and not necessarily on the hostage family. Speaking about the press, Orly,
Yeah.
You are been very critical on the press not showing the real risk of Netanyahu and his government and the extremists over the years. Things have changed. We do know one thing, that the press is very, very loyal. Like, we will win together, patriotic, if you want to call it, but the patriotism is actually can be hurting us, getting the extremist out of the government.
Yeah. So what we see, first of all, I mean, I want to tell you that in the first few days, weeks, the journalists here in Israel worked really hard, and I mean, we all went down to the south, interviewed people. It was really, well, a journalistic nightmare. But regarding criticizing the government, we see a growing voice. There are more journalists that are saying loud and clear that Netanyahu is dangerous to the state of Israel. I mean, you hear it not only on this Zoom, you hear it also on Channel 12. This is the main channel in Israel now in this war. I mean, they have the highest rating, and there is, well, two the most brave journalists that are speaking truth to power and truth to the public, and they are saying that Netanyahu is dangerous, and that they are saying also that Netanyahu he is in a conflict of interest in himself because he has a dilemma, saving his coalition, political interest, or saving lives of the hostages. It's been said on the main channel of on channel 12 in Israel, so you hear it. But, and of course, channel 13, there are also journalists there that are saying stuff like this, but it's still not very common. It's still it's like exceptional moment. It's not like every day they are getting up and telling the public, Netanyahu is dangerous. Let's see what he has done in the past 24 hours. It's not like this. And also what we need to say, and we didn't say it till now, Netanyahu is a master liar. He is lying as he speaks, as he breathes. He's getting up in the morning, he lies, noontime lying, evening time lying. Every press conference, the journalists, they do fact checking to whatever he's saying, and there are multiple lies every press conference. So Netanyahu is busy with a campaign of his own political survival and his freedom, because he's trying to evade his own trial and trying to evade jail time, possibly. So what we see is that Netanyahu, and he has been doing that for many, many years, he built this kind of process that he deals with his image, the way he looks. And it's been very known for many years that Netanyahu is Mr. Security, that Netanyahu is Mr. Economy. Well, we see now the truth. We see now that he is Mr. of collapsing of Israel. He is the minister of the, he's the Mr. of destruction, Mr. of horror events of October 7th. So Netanyahu is lying. This is his main tool. He has a whole network of lies, and also there is this poison machine, this propaganda machine that is taking the lies and put them, outside, whether it's on the channels, on the radio, on whatever. There are also people that are sitting in the channels and are, resonate the lies until it's some kind of truth, some kind of as if. And by doing so, he tries to control the public space. He tries to control, what people think, like any other populist leader. But fortunately, after the past year of this huge protest against the regime coup, we see that there are many, many people that are awake, many people that see what's going on, and they see through his lies. And I hope it will stay like this and even get bigger with more brave journalists.
Yeah. Neri is here as well, and the co-host, and she has a question that repeats on the meeting
Yeah.
chat.
Hi, thank you, Fear. I wanted to swing back for a moment to the topic of our Zoom, which is how do we release ourselves, free ourselves from the liar, from the person that we keep talking about. I saw an interview with Matan Vilnai, one of the highest ranked generals in Israel, who was really in so many, and he was already also in politics, in the Israeli politics after serving in the army. And he was talking about a letter that 500 generals wrote about everything that you're talking about, the danger. And they also wrote that the first thing that needs to happen is to bring back the hostages home, and everything should be postponed after. But here's the catch. When he was asked about Gantz and Eisenkot, he said that he's afraid of them leaving because, God forbid, Bibi is going to stay all alone in the cabinet and he's going to take us into Rafah, right now, when those two designated adults that are reasonable are not going to be there. So what are your thoughts about it?
Okay, it's a good question and we need to discuss it for a minute. First of all, there is this letter, there are a few letters, and by the way, there is one letter with Nobel Prize winners from Israel and with businessmen. Jeremy Levin initiated this letter, and also security high-ranked people, all of them saying what I just said, that he is dangerous, that he should be out of office immediately, that Israel cannot, and by the way, I need to put one more thing, just to point out that Netanyahu refuses to discuss what needs to happen in Gaza the day after the war, what will be there. And of course, this discussion, not only crucial for Israel military and crucial for Israeli to, the whole war situation, it's also crucial for the hostages. It can be used as a leverage in order to advance the deal. So Netanyahu is postponing it, not having a discussion about what will happen. And it's not something in the future, it's right now, what needs to be done right now when the Israeli army is finished his work and needs to go back. So what you said about the cabinet and about Gantz and Eisenkot, that they are afraid of leaving the cabinet and leaving the coalition and leaving Netanyahu alone with his own 64 extremists. And, maybe some of you watched, we have also issues with the budget. They are taking a lot of money for political interest instead of putting it to the whole people in order to address the needs in this wartime. Well, my answer to Gantz and Eisenkot is this. You need to get out and to shake the boat. You need to get out and to start the dynamic of elections and to take out, even to call the people and to tell them, everybody, go out to the streets, and to go out to the streets with the people, to go out to the streets and to, to make it happen. And also, of course, they have other channels with other politicals. And as we said before, Ophir and I, we said that there are two ways. There is new elections or to form a new government in this Knesset with no elections, even as a temporary emergency government without Netanyahu. Again, it's possible, but as long as they are sitting there, it will not happen. But I do need to tell you that there are some voices that are saying, okay, you don't want to go out, don't go out. You are afraid to leave Netanyahu alone with Ben Gvir and Smotrich, okay, stay there. But ask for election, fight for election from within. Criticize, sorry, this is my cat, criticize Netanyahu from within, be in opposition from within. This is another way. They can do many things, but actually what we see is, well, I'm sure, again, their intentions are good. There is no doubt about it. But I think they are politically mistaken. I think that they are doing the wrong choices. And what they need to do is to tell the people what's going on. And again, I think as long as they give Netanyahu legitimacy and time, and they are normalizing him, he is playing with them. He uses them, and he is by far more sophisticated politician. His ways, he knows his way in politics, and they are, they don't have and also he has no boundaries. He has, for him no rules, nothing. He just, he's lying. He has no problem to lie. He has no problem, as I said, to sabotage the hostages release deal. He has no problem. We don't see any limits to his actions. So this is very, very complicated situation, but they need to rock the boat, and they cannot stay there as if it's normal and as if it's okay. It's not okay. And if they will not rock the boat, we will go to another disaster. I'm sorry to say it. I'm really, really sorry to say it, but really, I was in San Francisco. I met you all guys. I was in New York. I was in Boston, and I was in Washington, D.C. I met you, and I told you that the regime coup, it has also a security danger. I said that there is a danger not only to the democracy of Israel, but to Israel itself. And only a few days later, it happened. So what I'm saying now is that if we don't manage to take Netanyahu out of his office, we will go to another disaster, to another destruction, to another horrifying event. And that's what I'm trying to save us from, all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Orly. Thank you, Neri. So we are on time. I want to. There is a couple of questions I'll say about what we are doing, at least in the U.S. and around the world. One is, of course, we are really focusing on bringing the voices. So thank you, Orly, for joining us. The other one is we are, like other chapters, going and calling for a deal now, bring them home now. But we are adding the demand, not just from the rest of the world, like the US, Qatar, Hamas, the terrorist organization that brought us there. I mean, like, we demand our government, and we are voicing, speaking out on behalf of many families who are just saying, like, the time is running out. And the last thing is that, again, I mean, like, we know that elections will come at some point, hopefully, if democracy will not dissolve again. And we are going to help as much as we can to actually raise money and do other stuff to help the liberal democracy in Israel to survive. I will end by asking the last question, and Orly, you will have the last words. I mean, like, the optimistic part of this crisis, because as we say in America, we cannot waste a crisis, and unfortunately, we had this crisis. We are going to see a lot of other parties or people coming and joining to the political game. Your thought is that there is a momentum for winning the next election when they will come, or it's just going to be one more election like we had, like the other 5 elections before, with the deadlock? Do you see any changes in the way people are thinking right now?
Okay, so we need, first of all, to take a look at the polls. The polls are, I mean, the story of the polls, it's crazy. The Netanyahu's bloc, they have around 45 seats in the parliament, in the polls. Yeah, and as I said before, you need to have 61 in order to form a coalition and to be a prime minister. So right now he has 64 in the Knesset, but the polls, it's between 44 to 47. This is the range of Netanyahu's bloc. And the opposition, including Gantz and Isakot, they have 70, and so depends how you count it. So this is the polls story. Look, I don't want to talk about the elections because I don't know what will be, and I don't think that we know what will be because the situation will be different. There will be new parties, maybe some from the right, maybe in the center it will be left, it will be a little bit, maybe not a little bit, maybe much different. And I think it may change the picture. So I do think that in the past year, the regime coup, the fight against it, the huge mass protest, and the events, the horrific events of the October 7th, and everything that happened since, I do think that there is a huge amount of people that are awakened, people that they see more clear, people that they see through the lies, people that they understand much better all the manipulations and everything that, you know, all the lies and all the stories that we've been told. I think that Israel is much more mature, and also, you know, the situation here is traumatic, but also there is a growing bond between many of the people. You know, people are fighting together, people are helping each other, but we still have from the leaders, they are sowing the division and the hate. So it's a very, very complicated situation, but I trust us to rise above all this and you know, to take this horrific crisis after, of course, all the hostages are home and safe and all that. I think that from this crisis we will need to rebuild ourselves. We will need to rebuild ourselves, not only the kibbutzim, not only, you know, all the houses, but also the communities and us as a nation.
Thank you, Orly. There were many questions I couldn't pick up, and maybe we'll try to do a follow-up on that, or maybe create some other summaries. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I know there is a lot of energy here. We are all convinced that we need a better leadership. And again, we are open to any ideas that you might have that we can work together and help. I will be heading to Israel on a solidarity mission with the Silicon Valley leaders here on Friday, so I'll try to report back from there. Orly,
and please continue
so
your fight for the hostages. I mean, whatever you do to raise the voice and to, you know, to make the world keep on pushing, keep on pressuring whoever needs. I mean, this is so important. Whatever you do, it's amazing, and it's very, very supportive also for the families.
thank you, Orly. Thank you, Neri. Thank you, David, for all the translations. And we'll send the recording will be on the YouTube channel, but we'll send also an email to all those registered. Have a good day, and let's bring them home now. Bye-bye.
Thank you.